Warning, this is a film with the intent to be non-biased. All clips and talking points are being spoken with the intent to inform the public about firearms. We have tried our best to stay in the middle ground due to the emotional and dangerous debate that the topic of a gun brings. Please remain respectful to others while engaging in a gun debate because it can be hard and emotional topic for people. Thank you.
Viewer discretion is advised.
The site of yet another deadly school shooting.
1692 means we got shots fired. 291 sounded like an automatic firearm.
Two shooters were initially believed involved in the mass shooting.
The hunting of our kids in this school this week.
I'm your biggest fan, I'll follow you until you love me. Paparazzi.
When we look at the guns of today, it's hard to remember that at one time, guns were big, clunky cannons or historical rifles that fired one shot every 2 minutes. The first guns were invented by the Chinese as they were the first to discover gunpowder. The predecessor to the gun was a fusion of melee and explosive weapons called the fire lance. But the first real guns were cannons that were held in two arms and date back to the 12th century. They obviously had no practical use today, but back in the 1100s they were revolutionary. The Middle East got their hands on gunpowder next in the 13th century. These guns were more similar to rifles in the 1600s, but it was nowhere near perfect. Europe got their gunpowder in the mid-13th century. There are many theories on how the Europeans got gunpowder, but a popular theory states that they got the powder on the Silk Road, which was a popular trade route. The Europeans used the gunpowder for siege weapons like cannons, and by the 15th century, the Ottoman Empire had guns as a regular part of its infantry.
Columbine happened, nothing's changed.
But the fix isn't banning guns.
Sandy Hook happened, nothing's changed.
If I have somebody breaking into my home, I need a means of self-defense.
In America, the debate on guns is sensitive, dangerous, and touchy subject. Then comes the modern debate. What is the problem? Do we need better background checks? More research on mental illnesses? Ban guns as a whole? Let's talk about it. To almost everyone, pro-gun or not, 2016 was a huge awakening to the growing issue in America. Pulse nightclub was the biggest shooting seen in a long time, which followed by the worst year in mass shooting history with 345 mass shootings in 2017 alone. The gun debate grew even worse after the Las Vegas shooting, where a man opened fire on 22,000 people at a music festival, becoming the deadliest mass shooting since 1900. For pro-gun Americans, they are considered one of the most practical forms of self-protection. They are beneficial for those who are interested in hunting and outdoor survival. They also argue that regardless of what they do with it, it's completely their right to own guns and use their guns according to the Second Amendment. To wrap it up, there are several pros and cons to guns that make the debate almost unwinnable. They are seen as too easy to access and a leading cause of mass shooting. They are also seen as protection and safety.
I'm waking up to ash and dust. I wipe my brow and I sweat my rust. I'm breathing in the chemicals. I'm breaking in.
Some people think that the future of guns is laser technology and other crazy weapons like that, but the guns of the near future are actually already being made and on the market. Of these guns, there are some that have quite interesting concepts, such as smart guns and 3D printed guns. Smart guns are firearms that use special technology to identify the owner. If the gun can't confirm the person holding it is the owner, the gun will not fire. There are some downsides to guns that rely on computers. Some smart gun models can be easily hacked using other technology or in some cases magnets. The technology can't help the mass shooting problem, but only make sure the owner of the gun is firing. The objective of the smart gun is to minimize gun-related accidents. The other weapons technology is 3D printed guns. Unlike smart guns, 3D printed guns don't have a specific purpose. The only reason people would own a 3D printed gun is because its lack of serial number, meaning it can't be tracked.
Look what you done. I'm a star boy.
What is your stance on 3D printed guns?
I believe 3D printed guns should not be allowed unless they are serialized through a lawful procedure.
How would you say we fix the issue of mass shootings in our country?
The underlying issue with all mass shootings in the US, except for explicit terrorist acts, is mental illness and the mentally ill having access to firearms. Families with mentally ill individuals need to take responsibility for both the individual and the individual's access to firearms. There are laws and procedures in place where a family can petition the court to prohibit a mentally ill individual from owning or access to a firearm. This law is rarely utilized. The mentally ill individual who commits a mass shooting does not become mentally ill overnight. There is always a long history of mental health issues prior to a mass shooting. There should be a just and lawful process to involuntarily commit someone to a locked mental health facility prior to that individual committing violence on the public. Before we bring up the closures of mental hospitals, just remember that was over 50 years ago. California politicians have had the opportunity for 50 years to build and create new and humane secure mental hospitals but have failed to do so.
Do you think we should adjust firearm laws as gun technology advances?
Yes, laws are constantly updated through the legislature and vetted through the judiciary.
Do you think people should be allowed to own firearms?
My answer is yes. The Second Amendment guarantees that right and has been continuously upheld through numerous United States Supreme Court decisions.
You spin me right around, baby, right around.